Hey, what's up everybody? Mike Maier from Mike Maier Incorporated here, and I'm going to talk to you guys about drop spindles. Back in the day, I chopped up my spindles and I put some big fatty tires in the front of Old Blue, and I think I was one of the first guys running 315s under the stockish style fenders, and it really looked tough. It was rad. The goal for me at the time was to go faster into the turn, win more events, put more tire into the front so I can just have more grip. But what we learned was I completely hosed the front geometry of the car when I did that. I didn't know it at the time. And so as I drove the car more and more with this newfound geometry that I created, I started really running into little idiosyncratic, funky situations about the way the car felt. Its confidence that it gave to me going into the car and going into turns. The way it drove down the highway, if I wanted to avoid something in the center of the freeway. The car started becoming a little diabolical. It was great at about 10, 15 miles an hour, like good guy speeds, but anything beyond that, the geometry of the front, by changing that spindle pin height and the control arm angles, really got out of its element once I started getting into highway speeds. And I started finding myself doing lots and lots of other things to cover up this issue. And at the time, honestly, I didn't even know what I had done. So to combat this, we created the Mod 2 front suspension, which had all sorts of different geometric pickup points and different combinations so we can hunt and search for what the heck I did to the car. With that Mod 2 front end, we basically isolated the problem to the spindle geometry. At this point, we changed directions with our car. We went back to the standard spindle geometry due to the way the car is built, the way the pickup points are, the height of the floor pan, all sorts of things that lent back to the original design was probably one of the best combinations we could have had. But we had to explore, we had to go out and beyond. The turnaround to this was, we ended up going actually back to a tall spindle, and with that same old fender, we'd probably run, say, a 275 instead of a 315. The more we learned about tires, the more we learned the wider the front tire is, the more susceptible the tire is to bending and flexing in the center of the contact patch. When you go into a turn, the tire wants to lift off the ground if you don't have enough pressure. Well, this is more of a situation in old school cars because they're so narrow, so tall, they put a lot of load on that tire, so we need a really stout tire. 275s have a lot more cross, I don't know how you say, carcass control in the center of the tire from lifting than say something much, much wider. So it sounds kind of hard to believe, but the wider the front tire is, the more susceptible it is to lifting off the ground in the front of the turn. And so you really have to put pressure back in it. But a 275 for a touring guy is really going to keep that tire flat and square. We're going to have good geometry properly designed with the spindle. And we found ourselves going quicker and quicker with a 275 in the front of a stock style fender car than trying to cram in a 315 with bad geometry. We started getting perspective after all these years. So at the end of the whole thing, we make suspension. That's what we do. We opted not to make a drop spindle from all the years that we had doing different spindles, different combinations, and we opted to put more development time in a good tire, good geometry, good shock, good spring, get that whole package. And a lot of guys sit there and go, Maier, I'm not going to be racing like you. I just want to cruise, man. I want the look. Well, the funny thing is, the character of the car, the hue of the car, comes out at regular street speeds. If you are just wanting to enjoy the car, you and your wife, the car has to have good bones. It has to have good character. And if it doesn't, it just becomes cumbersome to drive. It becomes laborious, and it's not fun. You start losing that spark. So we feel it's our job to kind of be big brother and say, hey, I did this back in the day. Go around that. Don't do that. I mean, we do that all the time with other aspects of our life. Hey, I was in high school. Don't do that. I did that, back in the day. So do these things. We try to do these things for you. We try to do it for ourselves. We want to improve our product or improve our quality. So when we design spindles, when we do suspension geometry, we understand what a lot of people are looking for, but we also understand that most of all, we want to drive the cars. We want them to handle great. We want them to feel great. That's number one. Number two, the looks will follow that. If you've got a great handling car, it'll start looking good because it acts well. So MMI suspensions, we try to have a global look at it, and we try to make sure that you guys get the best we possibly can give you. That's why we don't offer a drop spindle for the front of your car right now, just simply because, well, we've been there and done that, and we're on to newer and bigger and better things. So I hope that helps you guys out a little bit, understand why we made these decisions. I hope you have a great day. Check us out at MikeMaierInc.com. You can look at our Instagram, Mike Maier Inc., and YouTube. You might even be there right now watching us. Hey, all in all, have a great day. We'll see you guys soon.